Hey everybody, Captain Bill Tody here. On Memorial Day 2024, I had the pleasure of giving a keynote speech at Cape Canaveral National Cemetery. And while there, I got to sit alongside a 102-year-old World War II veteran. He was a Seabee in the Pacific, but he has Guadalcanal, the Green Islands, and Russell Islands, and Peleliu. And Seth said, "You met him? You ought to do an oral history with him if he hasn't already done one." So I asked him. He had not already done one. So Seth kind of inspired me. And here, keep this in mind. Seth has probably done over 1,000 oral histories while he was at the National World War II Museum. And I have done exactly 0. So with a lot of coaching from Seth, I set up the equipment at Cam Pelletier's house and heard his story. And so we're going to bring it to you now. This is William Tody and recording on June 13th, 2024. I'm interviewing Cam Pelletier at his house in Titusville, Florida, to document his experience in World War II. Cam, what is your full name?
Cam Pelletier.
Cam Pelletier. And how do you spell your full name?
Pelletier.
So it's Peletier.
Yeah.
All right, great. And Camille, that's a French-Canadian name?
Yes.
All right. Do I have permission to record this interview with you?
Yes.
Okay, great. And you said you were born in
Bellingham, Massachusetts.
Bellingham, Massachusetts. And you said you had 18 brothers and sisters?
No, I had 15.
15.
My mother had 18 kids, but they died in infancy.
3 of them died in
Yeah.
infancy, so you had 15 brothers and sisters.
Yes. 14.
And what were your parents' names?
My mother was Georgiana Cochrane, her maiden name. My father's first name is Wilfred.
Wilfred Pelletier.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And your father was a building
Mostly in building.
construction. Okay. And you said that your ancestors came from Quebec, Canada? But before that?
In the province of Quebec, yes.
Yes. And what year did they come from France?
Ancestors came in 1540 from France.
1540 from France to Quebec. And then United States in what year?
And they settled in Woonsocket, Rhode Island,
Okay.
in 1900.
1900. And that was your parents who moved from
Yes.
Canada. Why did they move from Canada?
I don't know, big family, maybe on the farms where they came from.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working the factories when they came here. A lot of factories were being built by French people from France,
Okay.
like Lafayette Worsted, the French Worsted Company, big factories, 4 or 5 story factories.
Those are the old brick factories you can still see in New England
Yes,
when you're up
yes.
there now.
Yes,
Incredible. Wow. And so your language when you were born was French then?
it was French, yeah.
Incredible. All right. And you said you don't remember any hobbies, but you had a favorite toy. What was that?
I had a fire truck, cast iron fire truck. My oldest brother had bought me.
Okay. And then you gave us a little story about losing your finger. What was that story?
Well, between 5 and 6 years old, my brother and I broke into a cabinet where my father stored dynamite caps. Mm-hmm. And to me, they looked like empty copper cartridges. And I took 2 of them out, played on the sidewalk, and hit them with a rock. And they blew up.
Okay.
Lost a finger.
Oh, no.
Almost lost that thumb, too.
That was your left index finger that you lost. All right. Your brother was with you at the time?
Well, I think he left after. I'm the only one that did the damage.
So he left after it blew up and you were by yourself.
Well, I just remember him with me when I pulled a padlock or something off a cabinet where the stuff was stored.
Right. But you went by yourself to your parents' house, or how did you get help?
Well, we were in the cabinets were in the basement of the house.
Oh, see.
It was sort of The house was on a hill. The basement had a lot of windows. And that bottom apartment was, he stored construction material there. And so I broke into her cabinet. You know, you don't listen to your parents sometimes, you do foolish things. I paid the price.
You did, yeah. But your parents stored dynamite caps in the basement of your house.
Yeah, they were under lock and key.
That was obviously something bad did happen, but that could have been much, much worse if those
Yes.
things blew up. Yeah. So when you went to elementary school, did you speak English?
Both.
Both.
We had French in the morning, English in the afternoon.
Okay. So you went to school in both French and English.
Yep.
Do you remember much about school?
I dropped out in the 6th grade.
So you went through 6th grade.
Yeah.
Did you have any influential teachers or anything like that?
Well, we had the nuns. I don't remember, you know.
Yeah.
I don't remember too much the teachers.
Okay.
And the reason I went to work, my mother encouraged us to go to school, but the father preferred to put the kids to work. Well, with the depression and all that they went through, I felt it was necessary to put the kids to work. It was more a priority to my father, I believe.
Yeah. And you were born January 18th, 1928?
22.
22, that's right. That's how you are currently 102 years old. So it was very different back then, wasn't it?
Sure was.
Yeah.
It was simple.
Very simple.
I thought it was simple.
Yeah. So after you dropped out of school at 6th grade.
I went to work for my father.
In construction.
In construction.
And what kind of work did you do?
Well, he built a barn on a couple of houses. Mm-hmm. He also had a portable sawmill, and he ran 2 stores where they sold oil burners. That's when people started to convert from
coal
to oil.
Yes.
Or wood burning.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But you had 2 sawmills. You could have lost some more of those fingers, Cam.
Well, I never really saw the sawmill.
Okay.
Because I was young.
Yeah.
But they'd take me, one of my sisters would take me to a store in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. That was an adjoining town. Where one store was, and they'd babysit me by bringing me with them.
That's incredible. So you went to work at, what, 12 or 13 years old?
Yes, about that time.
Yeah. And you were working with your dad's construction building barns and all kinds of things. Did you have any dreams or goals when you were a child?
I always, even at a young age, working for my father, I always wanted to work in construction, but in commercial construction.
I see.
Industrial construction.
Well, this experience would come in handy later when you joined the Seabees, but we're not going to go there yet.
Yeah.
All right. Was your family religious, Cam?
Yes.
They were Catholic,
Catholic,
I imagine, right? Hence all the kids and...
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you go to church?
Went to church every Sunday.
Every Sunday. And did you continue that through your adulthood, or did you...
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. I was an altar boy, too.
Yes.
I was Italian Catholic.
I was too at a very young age.
Were you?
But as we moved over here over 30 years ago, we built our own church here. So it's a non-denominational, very Bible
focused.
Focused.
Is that where you go now?
Yes.
You know, we go to a very Bible-focused church.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good to know, Cam. So you celebrate all the religious holidays. What was your favorite holiday when you were a child?
Christmas.
Christmas, yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, isn't it every child's favorite holiday? Good. Did you think your faith had anything to do with your desire, to join the Navy when the war started, or was it?
I think my faith had something to do with everything I did.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, as it does with all of us. Okay, so did your family have a car? I'd imagine they had a truck.
He had some trucks, but he had a car too.
Too, right. And so when did you learn how to drive? How old were you?
Oh, I don't remember, but when the Depression came, we moved to Vermont. He bought a big farm in Vermont. He felt to, people weren't paying their bills. I had seen the ledgers he had from his office, and everybody owed him money, and the Depression came. So having a big family, he bought a 500-acre farm in central Vermont.
Had he been a farmer in Canada before?
He may have been a farmer in Canada.
So he knew how to farm when he got you to
Yes,
Vermont.
but the farm was abandoned, so he bought all new tractors, equipment, rebuilt, put a new roof on the house, built a silo, a large barn, bought 28 head of cattle,
Wow.
with tractors and everything. Built a sugar house to make maple syrup.
So you were still working, but you were working on a farm at that point instead of in construction?
Well, I was very young then. I was probably 7 or 8,
Okay.
7 or younger, because I remember 2 of my older brothers broke down at Model T Ford. I was there to just a chassis, 4 wheels and the steering, and with a box to sit on, and the plywood or wood. And I have a picture here somewhere that shows 5 kids on that old jalopy, and the farmhouse was a couple of miles from the main road. So we'd go down towards the road and then push it back up the hill, and then ride down,
So sitting on a box
sitting on boxes and stuff.
with no body, no doors,
No,
nothing.
with just a steering wheel. Sometimes they go off it wasn't extra steep, but it was a long drive.
But it had the engine, but no
No engine.
no
nothing.
engine. You're just rolling.
Just a chassis.
The steering wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. So when you went to school, it was in Vermont on the farm, not in Massachusetts or Connecticut.
Oh, I went
or Rhode Island.
to Massachusetts. I went to a public school, and I went to 2 Catholic schools.
Oh, you did.
From the time I went, time we came back from Vermont.
So you moved from Massachusetts to Vermont and then back to Massachusetts.
Yes.
Okay, I understand. So you went to school in both places, but when you started working in construction for your father, that was in Massachusetts, not on the farm.
It was in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, right.
Primarily, although some in Massachusetts.
Okay.
We were close to the border.
And so that was your first job, really working for your father, wasn't
Yes.
it? Did he pay you?
Not too well.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so how long did you have that job? How long did you work for him?
Until times got hard at one time, and we came to Florida at one time in between jobs, and we looked for a job in Florida. We came to West Palm Beach,
Really?
and people would tell us in line, "Why don't the damn Yankees go back home?"
Yeah, I can imagine. Because it's pretty southern back then.
And we went back home, and then went back to work up there.
Okay. So you didn't go to college then if you dropped out in 6th grade? Okay.
I went to a night school and home study courses after the service.
Okay. So when the attack in Pearl Harbor happened, December 7th, 1941, where were you living at that time?
I was living in Woonsocket,
In
Woonsocket, and Bellingham.
Bellingham, Massachusetts.
It's right next to the border, within a mile of the
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island border.
Okay. And so I imagine you all had a radio.
Oh yes.
And so is that how you heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor, is the radio?
Oh yes.
Okay. How old were you when that happened?
18, 19.
Yeah.
I had a brother that was at Hickam Field when the Japs bombed.
So he joined up before the war,
No, yes, before the war.
and he was in the Army at Hickam Field.
He was in the, I think it was in the Navy.
Okay.
But he got badly injured on Hickam Field. There was an accident. He got a fractured skull,
Okay.
put a plate in his head, and he was in hospital, California, when the Japs bombed Hickam Field and Pearl Harbor.
So he wasn't there when it happened.
No.
Okay. So it was an accident prior to December
Yeah.
7th. Okay, I understand. So was he the only one of your siblings who was in the military at the time?
No, I had 2 other brothers that were in the service. Victor was with Patton in North Africa,
Okay.
and then in Sicily, it was Patton.
Had they joined before December 7th or after December?
After.
After, okay. So like you.
Yeah.
So you were on December 7th when you found out about it. How did that make you all feel?
Well, we were kind of shocked, and my brother had joined before. He was at Hickam Field, and I joined mid-year in 1942.
Okay.
In mid-year. Then they sent me home. They told me to wait,
Right.
and I waited. I was working for Central Engineering and Construction Company from Attleboro on a large bridge job in Rhode Island. And they told me to wait until I was called. Then I reported to Davisville at the Seabee base.
Davisville, California?
Davisville, Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. I'm sorry, yes.
Camp Endicott. That's close to the Quonset Naval Air Station.
Right, okay. I know where that is.
Yeah.
So, was your family angry about the attack on Pearl Harbor?
We're disappointed more than anything.
Right. Disappointed that we're going to be. After Pearl Harbor, you and two brothers, one had already been in the Navy, you and two other brothers joined up. Is that right?
Yes, there was Leo.
Leo?
He's the one who got injured. Leo Pelletier. Another brother, Vic, he was with George Patton.
In the Army?
In North Africa and Sicily and then Germany. And the younger brother, 5 years younger than me, Rudy, he was in the Navy.
When did he join?
He joined about the time I did.
Okay. But he would have been below age at that time?
5 years younger than I was.
Yeah. So
he must have been, he was below his age.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they took him.
And he joined the Navy as well?
Joined the Navy.
And where did he serve?
He served Hawaii. He was in Hawaii. I think he may have been in the Philippines too.
Okay. All right. So you had one brother who was with Patton as he rolled through.
Yeah.
And then you were at Seabee, and your other brother who was in the Navy, he was aboard ship or not?
He was aboard ship,
He
yes.
was, okay. All right. So, where did you go to boot camp again?
Camp Endicott, Davisville, Rhode Island.
Okay.
That was the original home of the Seabees where they started.
Right. How did you get from where you lived to boot camp?
My family drove me.
They drove you because it wasn't far.
No.
Right. Are there any memories of boot camp you'd like to share?
I wasn't there that long. We trained at Endicott a little bit. Then they shipped us by train to, I think it was Camp Bradford in Norfolk, Virginia. And we trained a little bit there, and it was starting to get cold. From there, we went to Mississippi.
Camp Shelby?
No,
No.
Camp Bradford. Not sure if Bradford was in Norfolk or.
Okay. So why Seabees? Because you were a construction guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then were you a carpenter in the Seabees?
And a carpenter.
Carpenter.
I
Okay.
was a union carpenter, journeyman carpenter before I joined.
So you really didn't need much training from the Navy on how to be a carpenter, did you?
No, we had that.
But you got training in rifle shooting and the other things you would
Yeah,
have
it was fast. We didn't try. The Seabees were mostly for construction,
Yeah,
but they trained us enough to protect ourselves,
right.
how to use a rifle and so forth.
Now, I'm going to jump ahead now. After you gone through the war, do you think you received enough training to prepare you for what you went through during the war?
Not entirely, but
Yeah. You had to learn some things under fire.
well, yes.
Yeah, under fire. All right, good. So when did you learn you were going to ship out overseas? Where were you then?
We were in. Well, we knew originally. We knew when we joined. We knew we were going overseas.
Okay.
At least we expected. So then we had orders from a camp in Gulfport, Mississippi. They told us we were going to Port Hueneme to
Right.
ship out.
Right. Okay. Know where that is too. Now, were you excited or scared about going overseas?
Somewhat apprehensive.
Yeah, apprehensive. Are there any friends or shipmates with that started with you, that stayed with you through the war?
No, but I made a friend when I was overseas.
You did.
Several friends, but one of them came from Rhode Island, and he did. One of them, I had two friends. One lived in Pawtucket, Rhode Island before the war,
Right.
and the other one lived in West Warwick, Rhode Island.
Okay.
And the one from West Warwick, Rhode Island, I even forgot his name, his first name, but he said he had a niece that needed to write to somebody. So I started to write to his niece.
Okay.
Before I got out of the service, I married her.
Sometimes it happens that way, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's great. So you were in the 33rd Construction Battalion?
Yes.
And so the 33, what was your job in the battalion?
It varied, mostly carpentry most of the time.
Okay.
And if there was something that needed to be done in a hurry, under adverse conditions, or loading ships in a hurry and so forth,
Right.
they'd get a whole bunch of us to do that. But we go back to our trade.
Yeah. I understand. By the way, I found your picture in the 33rd Construction Battalion's cruise book. So you probably know about that book, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So the first place I think the 33rd Construction Battalion went was New Caledonia. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember anything about New Caledonia?
Yes, New Caledonia was a French possession. People spoke French, and at that place, we unloaded some of our equipment from ships to make a small airfield from a. This was a little racetrack, and the bulldozers made a landing strip,
Right.
and where the grandstand was, they made a control tower and stuff to handle the aircraft and so forth. We didn't stay there long.
Okay.
That was done within a month.
Interesting. Yeah, so you were able to speak French to the locals.
I didn't do well with them because the French speak different. I went to Paris one time with the wife, and the language is a little different
Yeah.
than Canadian.
Yeah, French, yeah.
So
Well, the other thing that I read about New Caledonia and Noumea in particular is that the natives did not like the Americans.
no, they did not.
That's right.
And they put me on a water truck to get fresh water in town to bring to the camp. And sometimes there'd be kids on the road. I'd pick them up and ride, and I had trouble making conversation with them. And I think it was intentional on their part. They didn't want to speak to us.
Yeah, interesting. Good. So you weren't in New Caledonia long, and you left New Caledonia by ship and went to Guadalcanal. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I understand that as you were going from New Caledonia to Guadalcanal, 12 Japanese torpedo bombers attacked your ships, your convoy.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Can you
We're
tell-
on top deck, and we're told we're being attacked. There was 2 submarines in the area, and a bunch of Japanese planes they were in the area. So we went below deck. They were told for us to go to below deck. But the chaplain stayed on deck, and when from shrapnel, he got wounded.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the planes was shot down from a gun from our ship, a tail gun,
Right. I understand you were on the USS Crescent City.
the Crescent City.
Right. Okay. And then one Japanese airplane crossed about 50 yards astern. That's the one I think you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah. And the 5-inch gun on the fantail struck the Japanese airplane dead center, and the plane exploded.
Yeah.
Interesting. So by the time you arrived on Guadalcanal, the island was a staging point, and no longer in the battle zone. However, there were a lot of guys that got sick, got tropical diseases.
Yes, and we got bombed and strafed over there too.
You did?
Before we left for Brussels.
Yeah, there's a famous Japanese pilot who's referred to as washing machine Charlie.
Because of the noise they made.
Is that?
You know, like
Uh-huh.
it had a certain noise. I don't know if it was the same pilot all the time. Every night on the Brussels, they'd get bombed.
Washing machine Charlie got.
Yeah.
You remember that? Did you get sick?
No.
No, you didn't. You got lucky then, huh? And so what was life like on Guadalcanal?
Guadalcanal was a short stay. I worked on prefabricating some stuff, control tower. We cut some timber, prefab control tower,
Right.
and stuff like that.
And it was really a staging point to get to the Russell Islands, right?
Yes, and then our equipment was put on smaller vessels.
Yeah, LCTs.
Vessels, LSDs.
Yeah, okay. And that was February 20th, 1943 is what my records show.
Yeah.
So the 33rd went to the Russells, and specifically Banica.
Banica of the Russells.
Yeah. So what did you do on Banica?
I was a carpenter.
Yeah, so you're building things there.
Yes.
Did you get to Pavuvu at all?
No.
No. The Marines hated Pavuvu.
Yeah. they'd come on our island. They'd come to our kitchen a lot.
Yeah.
Because the first thing we'd do, set up a tent, you know, unless we were under fire, and then you couldn't. Peleliu was worse on that score.
Yeah, yeah. But your unit built a hospital and various facilities on Banica. Were you involved in that?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me about that?
Well, it was Quonset huts, putting a lot of Quonset huts together. And we had our sawmill going. I didn't work on the sawmill, but we were anxious to get lumber from the mill after the shops, after the hospital was built and so forth. Things were a little more quiet. After a couple of months, they gave us lumber to put a wooden deck under our tents. And we had to put up a Quonset hut for the officers R&R
Yeah.
area. And I had the job to build the bar. And we made the chairs from lumber from the mill, so forth.
After you finished your work on the Russells, did you you went to the Green Islands, I think, right?
Yes, but before Green Island, when I was on that island, first job I had was on a water truck, like I did on
In New Caledonia.
New Caledonia. Although it was short, they put me on that water truck with 2 reels in the back. I was on that thing about 2 weeks, and I made friends with the crew, a crew of 5 or 6. The waterworks, they had a well too that had the water was not good for drinking, but they put them in the equipment. They had 2 big pieces of equipment to make fresh water.
I see. Yeah. Were there any natives on Banica?
There was some natives on Banica.
There was, yeah. What?
I didn't see too many, but there was some. And there was a few Japs too.
Oh, there were.
Yeah, one of our guys from our outfit killed a
Okay.
Japanese.
Wow.
And they found in his pockets he had green stuff and roots.
Uh-huh.
So apparently he had trouble with the food.
Right.
I think they were spotters. That's all they were. They were not infantry or anything like that.
I see. Do you remember anything else about Banica?
Banica, I was the first guy to see a bomber come down. I was on a water truck the first week I was there. And I was near a tent for the hospital. And on stilt, there was a tank, a cube of 4 or 5 feet square, with a ladder on the side. I climbed up there, put the hose in that tank. And while I'm filling that tank, I'm looking around. I seen 2 planes diving, and I seen a shiny object come out of the plane. So I ran downstairs and told the doctor. And by then the bombs were coming off, but they weren't bombing where we were, about 2 miles away. Still not too far.
No, not too.
At the dock area.
Were you under fire more on Banica or on Guadalcanal, do you think?
Banica was more occasional strapping, a lot of bombing. And a guy by the name of Clausen on the water detail. I was off the water detail that night, but he didn't get up. He got up too late to go to the foxhole, and shrapnel went right through his chest from a bomb that went off close by.
Did it kill him?
Clausen, yes,
Clausen.
instantly.
Okay, that's
His name was Clausen.
one of your units.
Yeah, he worked with me on the waterworks.
Okay, he's part of the. He was a Seabee though.
Yes, he was
Okay.
all Seabees.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you remember from Bonica?
There was a lot of cattle on Bonica.
A lot of cattle.
Yeah. But after a while, they told us not to eat it because they were. Bonica was Lever Brothers plantation.
Okay.
Had coconut trees 20 feet apart for maybe 2 miles,
So they're planted in rows,
and rows of 20
Like-
feet apart.
like on Guadalcanal. Yeah, there was a place in Guadalcanal where they were doing
Yeah.
the same thing. Yeah. Go ahead.
And that's where the airfield was built, all those coconut trees. And they couldn't use the sawmill. The wood was too hard to be used from the sawmill. So, but we used them over our foxholes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure that does a lot of good against the bomb, but it's better than nothing, I suppose.
Well, yeah, a direct hit, but,
Yeah.
you know,
Shrapnel.
it
Yeah.
had to be a shrapnel. What goes up has to come down.
That's right.
We were next to 105 millimeter anti-aircraft guns. And what
Wow.
goes up comes down.
Absolutely. Good. So on February 20th, 1943, 10 officers and 226 men left. That's at Guadalcanal, I'm sorry. That's the number of men that went to the Russells from Guadalcanal's. 10 officers, 226 men. That's a lot of people.
Well, we went to Green Island.
Green Island.
Yeah.
Okay.
And on Green Island, there was a few Japs, but I thought it was the New Zealanders,
There were some Kiwis there, yes.
Kiwis, yeah.
Yeah. And so what do you remember about the Green Islands?
Yeah. It was a beautiful, what a place for a resort.
Really?
It was the body of water 5 miles wide. Only 2 entrances, very shallow. The largest ship could come in was LCT,
Okay.
LST, LCT.
LCT, yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Right.
And the island was lush, very lush, and had beaches in some areas and 2-foot cliffs on the backside, like a horseshoe.
My notes say that while you were on the Green Islands, the Kiwis, the New Zealanders,
They did the fighting.
they did the fighting.
Yeah.
Okay. And did they take good care of you all?
Yes, we took care of them too. They come in eating our galley.
Exactly.
It was better than sea rations.
Uh-huh. How did you get along with the New Zealanders?
Very good,
Good.
very good.
Yeah. And you were attacked by Japanese bombers there too?
Yes, but I don't remember that much of it. It was so fast moving. There were 3 battalions there. They formed a regiment to build it within a month.
So from that standpoint, from the Japanese activity standpoint, the Green Islands weren't as bad as the Russells.
Less bombing because we were there less time.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay. And then from there you went to New Zealand, I think, December 1943.
went to New Zealand. Yes.
So for some R&R,
Yeah, 30 days.
30 days. Okay. How was that?
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Good food.
I got Waikariri Park near Onehunga.
Onionga, yeah.
Onehunga. And so
Watermata beer.
a lot of beer.
I think it was Watermata beer.
Wanamata beer.
It was an odd name. And while there, we made friends. My buddy and I, who was from New Orleans, George Owens, we made friends with a family. This couple had 3 little kids. And the small one, I rode her on her father's bicycle. He worked in a bank. And when she got married, they toured a good part of the world, went to Hong Kong, Canada. They stopped to see us in Rhode Island. They came back a second time to Rhode Island.
Okay. Wow. So they came from New Zealand to Rhode Island to visit you.
Yeah, I still write to that little girl. She's a widow now.
Oh, is that right?
I still write to her.
Oh, that's incredible. Does she remember you riding her around on the bike?
we don't want to talk about it too much.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And most of her sisters have died yet. Two other sisters.
And
I
they,
think they're both gone now.
but she's still in New Zealand.
She's still in New Zealand.
Oh, that's
Hamilton, south of Auckland.
right. So after your 30 days in New Zealand, you went back to the Russell Islands, January 5th, 1944, aboard USS David Shanks. Do you remember anything about that trip?
No,
No?
not that much.
Okay, so you were on, I think you were on Nissan Island of the Green Islands archipelago?
Yes,
And again, you had New Zealand infantry with you on that island?
yes,
Yeah, taking care of you. Did you build an airfield there?
yes.
Okay.
A bomber strips.
Okay.
So they could bomb Rabaul, New Britain, and Kavieng,
Yeah.
and also Truk, which
Oh, yeah.
was further away.
Yeah. We talked a lot in our podcast about Rabaul and Truk. It
Yeah.
was rings around Rabaul. I still remember the choking them off. So that was in MacArthur's area. So
Yes.
yeah. Do you remember anything? What was the scuttlebutt on MacArthur back in those days?
Well, it's more near the last island we were on, Peleliu.
Right.
MacArthur had something to do with that.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get to there in a minute.
Yeah.
So there were some strafing runs by the Japanese while you were on Nissan Island as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Any casualties from that?
No.
Do you remember anything about it?
I don't believe we had casualties.
Okay. So, you-
Although no, I'm not aware of any on that island.
yeah. You were there for almost 6 months, from January until June.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you built the runway and then,
Yes. They said I'd be able to bring planes in within a month. But then we stayed there a while longer.
okay. Well, that's fantastic. Do you remember what kind of planes? Were they B-24s or
Mostly B-24s, P-40s.
some P-40s too?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
But the most common plane was the Corsair,
Was it?
the Gulda
Yeah, the gull-winged airplane.
Gull-wing aircraft.
Yeah. We call them the ensign eliminator because they were so hard to land on an aircraft carrier.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. I was very friendly with a fellow here. I can't think of his name right now, but he flew off a carrier and he landed on the Russells. He remembered the Russells.
Your regiment was attached to the 3rd Marine Amphibious Corps in June 1944, and you specifically, I think the 33rd Construction Battalion was attached to the 1st Marine Division, and you boarded USS Rotanen on your way to Peleliu. Do you remember that ship, the Rotanen?
I don't remember the name of that ship.
But do you remember being aboard with Marines?
Yes, I do.
All right. How was that cruise? I mean, you know you were going to Peleliu, right?
Yeah, we were all nervous.
You're all
At
nervous.
least I was.
Yeah. Do you have any specific memories of that time aboard ship?
My most vivid memories were when the day before the attack, before the landings, we were watching from ship the heavy bombardment of that island. The whole island seemed to be on fire and smoke.
So it was ship bombardment plus air bombardment?
Plus air. You could see the planes diving onto they called it Bloody Nose Ridge, one of them,
Right.
one of the peaks
Yeah.
on the island.
Yeah, it would be called that later. But you were going to go ashore via landing craft, right?
Yes,
And did you know which wave you were going to be in?
I don't recall.
Yeah. After the Marines.
Yes.
All right. So what were you told about Peleliu before you got there?
We knew it would be rough. They
Yeah.
told us, but I don't think they realized how tough it would
Yeah.
be.
Right. And again, you were still assigned as a carpenter, but when you first went in on the landing craft, what equipment did you personally have with you?
I had my rifle and a backpack, and the most difficult thing was getting off the ship on a rope ladder.
Rope ladder? Yeah.
And then as you approach the bottom, the swells up and down. You had to let go when the landing craft was at the right plane.
Yep.
A couple of guys fell in the water.
Between the ship and the landing
Yeah,
craft.
because if you wait too long, that boat is 4 or 5 feet lower,
Down, drops, right.
and
then-
you've got all that weight on you.
and you're going to die. You're going to sink.
So I succeeded that.
Okay, yeah, clearly.
Did okay on that.
Yeah. Did you lose any guys doing that? During the getting?
No, not on landing. No.
Okay. Was this the first time you actually did an assault landing?
Yes.
Okay, because the other ones were what we call administrative
Yeah.
landings, where you just no combat, you're just
Yeah.
going ashore. So this was an assault landings. So when you got ashore, your landing craft got ashore, you were assaulting just like the Marines, right?
Well, the Marines were ahead of us.
They were ahead of you,
We
right?
just ran for cover and stuff.
Yeah, right. But you had to be ready.
Had to be ready.
And your equipment followed how long after you went ashore?
Well, it took a little while because they had to. The island was surrounded by coral reefs.
Right.
So, but I called these tanks alligator tanks. There's another name for them, but it went from water over the
Yeah, they're amphibious tracks.
amphibious tank.
Right.
It made out of heavy sheet metal, very little protection, and went back in the water. I went ashore on one of those.
I see. Not a Higgins boat or something like that.
No,
Okay. But did you land the same day the Marines landed?
in the afternoon.
In the afternoon, later in the day. Okay. Did you ever see any Japanese while you were there?
I seen a ton of Japanese. Some live ones, but I seen hundreds and if not 1,000 of dead Japs. More dead Japs than live ones.
Yeah, okay. So the convoy approached Peleliu, and a bunch of guys went topside to watch the pre-invasion.
Yeah.
You saw the naval bombardment
We thought the island would be easy to take.
because nobody would be left alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
So many caves there.
Was it loud, or I mean, how was this?
You could hear everything.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how many miles we were from shore, but it wasn't that many miles.
So you could see everything then as it was
Yeah.
unfolding. You could see the Marines as they were landing.
Yes.
And what did you think of that?
Well, we didn't know what the reports came in. The reports were at first that they landed pretty good, but it's after that they hit a lot of trouble.
Right. So a lot of the 33rd didn't land until D-Day +4, but you landed on D-Day
Yeah, in the afternoon.
in the afternoon. So my notes say that the casualties were so heavy that a lot of your unit were assigned as grave diggers.
Yeah,
You saw that.
I did, but some of my buddies from my tent area, very close buddies, ran bulldozers and backhoes to bury the dead.
Americans and Japanese, or just Japanese with bulldozers?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So what's your most enduring memory of the island, the time you were there?
It was wild in the beginning. I lost my platoon chief over there.
You did?
Yeah.
Do you remember his name?
Yes, Strasser. It was a German. Strasser.
Strasser.
I forgot his first name.
Okay. So he was killed.
He was killed. He was killed by a Marine tank.
Oh, friendly fire.
Yeah, friendly fire. He tripped. The traffic was so heavy, with the tanks coming in and out from the front, the Marine tank, and he fell, and he fell in the path of it went over his head, the track.
This is during the landing, or was it later?
After the landing.
Okay. Well, that must have been terrible. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Okay. Good. I'm glad you didn't see that. What was the relationship between the Seabees and the Marines?
Very, very friendly.
Right.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Sort of almost like brothers. Because we'd set up, they'd come to our kitchen. And in New Zealand, we went there with the 1st Marine Division. So we seen the 1st Marine Division on Guadalcanal, on Peleliu, and we went to New Zealand for R&R.
Yeah.
They were there too.
Were they? But this is the first time you're actually attached to their unit, right?
Yes, it was.
You were with them before, but now
Yeah.
you're attached and you're going
Right.
ashore with them. Do you have any good stories about the Marines?
Well, I have one that wasn't too pleasant. The Marines had tied a Jap onto an amphibious tank. It was dragging him, so I don't know if that Jap was alive or dead, but
They're dragging him behind.
yeah.
I see.
I don't know if he was dead, he must have been, but
Yeah,
you know, you see so awful things
right.
in the heat of action.
Okay. And then after you got your equipment ashore, your bulldozers and things like that, what was the first thing you did?
Well, our first job was a control tower.
Okay.
And while we were working on the control tower, the shells, the Japanese had an 8-inch howitzer in a cave on a track, a railroad track, some kind of a track. They'd bring it to the mouth, and some of our men found maps near that cave after the action was mostly over. They could pinpoint every foot of that island.
They had it, registered, it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the shells would go over us when building the tower. They weren't interested in us. Thank God for that. But you'd hear the shells going by like a freight train going over our head.
Oh, that happens, yeah. Any other good stories about the Marines?
Well, they did all the fighting and dying.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
So, after you got the control tower built, what did you do next?
I worked on building Quonset huts for the field hospital,
Okay.
mostly there.
So Navy doctors came ashore, Navy doctors and nurses and corpsmen for the field
We
hospital.
built shelters for the nurses, yes, showers and stuff. That was when things started to settle down a little bit.
Right. And so there's a lot of Japanese still in caves, you're aware of that.
Oh, yes.
And then, how long do you remember the action taking before the island was declared secure?
It was almost 2 months before it was somewhat clear.
Okay.
It was a long time.
Did the Japanese infantry, naval infantry, or Japanese army ever attack or try to run an assault on
Well,
you?
we were working on a project. They evacuated us. They told us to leave.
Okay.
We were just a few men on this building this Quonset hut. And there was a report there. They were landed on a small boat, just a few Japs. And they got killed right away, so it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, we heard that some of those Japanese that landed on that boat, it was like 8 or 10 or 12 or something.
Yeah.
They didn't even have weapons.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, it just,
Yeah.
it was like they thought it was their duty to die, so they're going to
Yeah.
assault and do what they could. Yeah. So was this your last major action during the war?
Yes.
What happened? Did you stay in Peleliu for a long time?
I don't remember how long, but it was several months.
Because this is 1944 still.
Yes.
What did you do after the island was secured? Where did you go?
When we left Peleliu, we came home.
You came home.
Came home from Peleliu.
But you didn't come home until 1945.
Well, we stayed on Peleliu.
That puts you on Peleliu almost a year.
Well, we built officers' quarters after
Right.
with lumber from the sawmill.
Yeah. Because the landing was June 44, and I show you all leaving Peleliu on USS President Johnson on March 1st, 1945.
Yes.
So that's almost a year on that island.
It didn't appear to me I was there that long, but I don't recall going elsewhere
Yeah.
unless my memory fails me.
No, I think that's what the record shows. I think your memory is correct. But it's a long time to be on Peleliu.
Yes.
So you went home before the war ended.
Yes.
Okay. Why were you deactivated? Because the war was winding down?
Because they didn't need this type of construction. They had other outfits that with younger men. when we were deactivated, the average age before that was 37 years, I was told.
37.
The average age of the outfit. We had a lot of guys that are 60 years old.
Really?
One guy blew his foot off. He wanted to go home. They wouldn't let him. He had family problems at home and stuff. So you hear these stories, you know.
It was because they were taking journeyman construction people,
Well,
carpenters?
a lot of engineers,
Oh, I see.
structural engineers, sanitary engineers.
Right. So your average age was high,
Yep.
and they said, okay, these guys have done enough, we're going to deactivate.
Well, I went in apprenticeship, and I came out governor's mate second class.
Okay.
So you couldn't get ratings.
Yeah, you couldn't get promoted, that's
I
true.
was a journeyman governor before I went.
Right.
But it is what it is.
It is what it is. Great shirt. So, when you came home, where did you land?
We landed at Camp Parks, I believe,
Okay,
California.
California. And then they put you on a train, or did you have to wait for a while before you got on the train?
No, we had to wait, and we had to find our own way home.
Really?
Yeah. Now here we are. We enlisted on the East Coast, and they let us off in California. You're on your own. You know, we had to pay our own way.
Wow. Yeah, but you didn't have any place to spend all those millions of dollars the Navy had paid you.
No. So they had the airlines there one day, different airlines, and I went with Southwest and Eastern Airlines or something like that. And it took 22 hours to get to the East Coast.
But you flew, you didn't take a train.
No, I flew.
Wow.
We landed in New Mexico and Texas and all the way south and then back up.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the plane I was on seated only 22.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that an old DC-3 or something like that?
DC-3.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. See, were you wore your uniform the whole time, right? Because everybody was wearing their uniforms.
Well, not at work. You had on Peleliu it was all marine clothing.
Yeah.
USMC.
The dungarees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when we came back, we wore our uniform.
Yeah. And then Navy uniform. And then, how long did you stay in the Navy after you got back to the U.S.?
Not too long. We were stationed. I was stationed at Davisville, somewhere. Those that were from the East Coast had to report to Camp Endicott in Rhode Island, but those that were from the West Coast had to report to Port Hueneme or Camp Parks.
Okay. And
And I was assigned to go to, I think it was Okinawa and Davisville, and getting ready, one of the islands close to Japan. I didn't feel like going, but I had developed a boil under my right foot. And I went and see the doctor. He said, "You're not going."
so this was after you were back in the U.S.
Yes.
And they said we're going to you were never inactivated yet. You were still in the Navy after you.
No, we had been deactivated.
Oh, you had. And they were going to reactivate you and send you to Okinawa.
Yeah. I could be mixed up there.
Okay.
I'm not sure. We were deactivated.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
I was trying to get a job on the base. You know, they had a fire department, had all kinds of things.
Right.
If you get a job, you wouldn't go back overseas, but they were full up.
Yeah.
But I developed something, so I missed that thing.
Okay.
Then they dropped a bomb on Japan,
Right.
and that ended it.
Where were you when you heard about that?
I was home. I don't remember if I was still in the service then.
Okay. So what was the feeling when you finally got back to the United States from Peleliu?
Or relief. But we were aboard ship 45 days,
Okay.
so I never went on any cruises for years after that.
I can imagine. Yeah, it was on the
Because we were
President Johnson.
one of the ports, we were quarantined. Somebody was sick aboard, may have been contagious.
So January 18th, 1945, let's see, no, I'm talking about Peleliu again. back in on Peleliu, January 18, 1945 was what we were talking about. Two Japanese barges released 60 naval infantry. That was the event you were talking about. Yeah, they were quickly dispatched. So you got home on April 15th, 1945, after 28 months deployed. So that's how long you were overseas, over 2 years. And you said you were home when you learned about that the bomb had dropped.
Yes.
And were you also home when you learned that the war had ended?
Yes, I was.
Okay. How did you celebrate?
Well, it was a glad feeling all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it parties, people getting drunk? What was happening?
No, not really.
No? Not really?
No.
All right. And so...
If I ever got drunk in my life, I don't remember it.
Really?
I may have, but...
Yeah, well, that's good. That's why you're 102 years old.
Yeah.
And other people aren't.
In moderation, everything in moderation.
Absolutely, Cam, that's very good. So what did you do after the war? You went back to construction?
Yes.
And how long did you work in construction?
The rest of my life.
Okay.
But I worked for a large contractor in my mid to late 20s. Mm-hmm. And I had taken home study courses. Some of it were paid for by the military, by the government. Home study courses that I went to I went to a college in Rhode Island for some specialty courses on estimating to improve my estimating. I went to work for a larger contractor to build churches.
You built churches?
Churches and...
Wow, that's fantastic.
St. Agatha in Woonsocket, St. John Vianney in Cumberland, Rhode Island.
Oh, that's wonderful. My goodness.
Yeah. And my job was estimating. I loved estimating.
Really?
They tell me I was good at it.
And it's really important to have a good estimator because that's how you price the project.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, that's fantastic. Good. Did you ever miss the Navy?
No.
No, I don't blame you.
No.
Based on your experience.
No.
No. Do you have any fond memories from your time in the Navy?
Fond memories of people I was with, friends.
Yeah.
Some Marines, although through the years I forgot their names.
Sure. Yeah.
But one of the fellows that was a petty officer on the Russells and on Peleliu, and I worked for him a little while. And he came to work for me after I formed my own company. I worked for a contractor 15 years, then I formed my own company for 14 years.
I see.
Not 15, 14 and 14 years in my own company.
They brought your bulldozer.
Yeah, they're rebuilding the whole golf course,
Was that right?
spending $4 million.
Too bad. A bulldozer like that would have been useful in Peleliu.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of those.
Was there? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I was building a maintenance garage for the Army in Rhode Island at an old Nike site that had been abandoned. And one of our guys that was in the tent with us, he was a heavy equipment operator. And I found out after, he was, when they did the paving, the company I hired to the paving and installed the gas tank, digging for the gas tank and putting the blacktop. He worked for that company, and he worked on this project for me. And I didn't know it till after.
But he'd been at, what, Peleliu with you?
Yeah, all through the war with us.
All through the war.
We sleep in the same tent. Arthur Paquin.
Arthur Paquin.
Yeah.
All right. So you remember his name. That's fantastic.
Arthur Paquin. I came to visit him in Florida. He was a heavy drinker.
Was he?
He died in Florida.
Okay. And why did you decide to move to Florida?
Didn't like the cold weather.
You're like me.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. We had replacement. I think it was on Russell's, halfway through Russell's. Replacement, and they came from Alaska. And they were transferred, I think there was 20 or 30, I forget the number. But they came from where it was cold, and I told them, boy, I'm glad I wasn't there.
Yeah. They probably came from the Aleutians.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. They were doing some
Yeah.
work up there.
Yeah.
So is there any memories that you have that I haven't asked you questions about you want to share?
Well, when we were on Peleliu, there was an incident in the in our sleeping area. We had either 4 or 6 colored guys that worked for us. Took care of the officers' mess, stuff like that. And there was a commotion. I think they shot their rifle, and I guess we thought that the Japs had broken through. So the commander ordered them to go stretcher bearers with the Marines when they were opening the caves. They were blasting with dynamite, opening the caves, and some Japs ran out and killed them both. Killed everybody.
So you had guys from your units who got killed.
Yeah,
Okay.
from there.
Yeah.
And so they died on Peleliu.
They were,
And the other black guys weren't too happy with the commander.
I can imagine.
I don't know if he went and hide, but
There were a lot of famous episodes of using those explosives to
yeah.
blow up the caves on Peleliu.
Yeah, flamethrowers were used a lot on Peleliu.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes though you need to blow up the mouth cave. One of the there's a famous story about a Marine captain who was beloved by his company who was killed.
Yeah,
And in those kinds of operations. So many of those stories.
yeah. Well, the Marines lost, I think it was at least 1,500 men
Yeah.
on Peleliu alone. But we heard, I don't know if it was just rumors, but when Admiral Halsey had a meeting, MacArthur and some other naval officers, MacArthur's the one that pushed more for the invasion. Some were not in favor of taking Peleliu. Would be difficult, and they thought they could isolate them.
Yeah.
But they were so close to the Philippines that MacArthur pushed it. No.
Yeah, we talked about that on our podcast.
Yeah.
We think of Peleliu as the one assault that was a mistake.
Yeah, it was too costly.
Too costly.
Yeah.
So you would agree with that then?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And the reefs around it, and the caves. They knew about the caves. They didn't realize there was that many and so well connected.
Yeah. Are there any other memories you want to share about Peleliu?
That's about it.
Okay, is that it? All right.
Some of it has faded away, especially dates
Yeah.
and friends that I had. Don't remember. I can see their faces. I don't remember names.
Right.
In the Green Island group, we had a job to work near the inlet and to build a small control tower. And the natives around the women were all bare-breasted. So when we got back the next day, we had told the chaplain, he gave us a whole case of the white undershirt. And we gave it to the natives, and the following day, they all made holes in them. They felt uncomfortable. So their breath was sticking out.
They were wearing the white undershirts, but they put holes where their breasts were.
Exactly. So we got a lot of laughs out of that.
It's a different concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Cam. So how long ago did you make this?
A few years ago, took me a whole summer. I found a plan in a book, but it wasn't motorized. I had to devise that myself.
So you figured out how to put the... But
Motorize it.
it's a spring, or is it a battery powered?
Electric.
Electric.